All right, so this is going to be 10.5 and very similar to 11.5, very similar to 11.4. Now we're talking about the area of a circle and the area of a sector. So before we talked about the arc length, so the section on the outside and the distance around. Now we're going to actually talk about the actual area of that sector. And the thing is, this is exactly the same as it was before. Think about it. If I know there's 360 degrees in a circle, whatever fraction, and I know how to find the area of a circle, whatever fraction of the circle I'm taking up, that fraction times the total area would give me the area of that sector. So you recall the area of a circle is A equals pi r squared. We can use this formula still down here, just like before. So we find the area of the entire circle, find out what portion of the circle we're dealing with by doing this fraction. So what we're going to say is the area of a sector, and we're going to call this yxz, is going to be equal to the measure of yz, this is exactly what we did before, over 360. Again, all this is doing is giving us what fraction or what portion of the circle we're dealing with, and we are just going to multiply that by the entire area of the circle, which is pi r squared. Okay, so whatever section we're dealing with, basically what fraction of the circle are we dealing with, multiplied by the area of a circle. Okay, so what we're going to do is let's look at a couple of these examples. We are going to go through a couple of examples about area first. So it says find the area of a circle with radius of 1 5/8 inches. What we're going to do is just plug it right into our formula. So we know that our formula is area equals pi times r squared. So now we just plug in what our radius is. So area equals pi times 1 5/8 squared. And we get a value of 8.30 inches squared. Okay, so down below, I want you to find the diameter. So don't forget diameter. So you're going to use the area formula still, A equals pi r squared, and we know what the area is. So I want you to figure out what the radius is, and then you can tell me what the diameter is. I want you to do this on your own, or at least set it up, and then just go ahead and hit play when you're ready. All right, so you should have plugged in 28.28 in for your area. Divide both sides by pi. You would get r squared equals 9. Then you have to take the square root of both sides, and you get r is equal to 3. Now remember, that's not your answer. It's asking for diameter. So you have to double your radius to get your diameter. Remember, the diameter is twice the radius. Diameter goes across the entire circle. The radius only goes from the center out to the edge. So your diameter there is 6 centimeters. Okay? All right, let's look at another example where we're actually finding the area of a sector of a circle. So here, what I want you to do is, okay, so we're going to find the sector, the area of this sector of the circle. And remember, the way to do this is first figure out what fraction of the circle we're dealing with. So it's just 100 over 360. So if I want the area here, I have 100 degrees of the full 360, and then we just simply multiply that by the area of our circle. Remember, pi r squared is the area of the circle. We have our radius is 12, so it'll just be 100 over 360 times pi times 12 squared. Okay? So again, that should be pretty straightforward, because you just need to think about sections. I want this section of the circle. This section is this fraction of the entire circle, and this is the area of the entire circle. So if I know what the fraction of the circle is, and I multiply it by my entire area, then that will give me my answer. Okay, so there's not a lot of work that's required. You just want to think your way through this logically. Fraction of the circle times the entire area of the circle will give us the fraction of the area that we're looking for. And this value gives us 125.7 meters squared. And that's all we're looking for. And again, you can always do pi times 12 squared to figure out what the area of the entire circle is, and just make sure that this is smaller, because it obviously should be smaller. Okay? All right, let's look at this. Okay, so in this example over here, where we're actually, they give us the area. The area of the sector is 48. So I already know the area of this sector. The problem is I want the area of the entire circle. So here's where we're going to actually use our proportion. So we're going to say area of sector over total area equals, and it's going to be the measure of RT, that's the arc length right here, or the arc measure, over 360. That's just a normal formula. That's the formula that's on the front page. If we were to go back, this is what we're using in all of these. But now what we do is we just plug in what we know. Again, area over the total area, that's a fraction. Measure of that degrees over total of 360, that's just a fraction. So here we're given the 48. We don't know what the total area is, so we'll just put X. We know the measure of RT is 120, and then over 360. And then literally we're just solving a proportion here. 48 cross multiply, so we do 48 times 120 equals 120x. Sorry, made a mistake there. That should have been 48 times 360, of course. Okay, and then we divide both sides by 120 to solve for x there, and we get our area is equal to 144 feet squared. Okay? So again, we'll work on this more in class. We'll deal with this. We'll mess around with it. You guys can ask questions. Don't forget that if an Edmodo quiz has been assigned, to take that, and I will see you guys then.